This is Comic Geek Speak, episode 1629, Comic Talk.
Laser beams, opinions like the seasons on everything you read in comics, movies, games, toys, artists, Comic Geek Speak, Comic Geek Speak, Comic Geek Speak, Comic Geek Speak, Comic Geek, uniting the world's mightiest heroes. This is...
I'm Adam Murdo.
I'm Ian Levenstein.
And I'm Chris Eberly. Fantastic.
Outstanding.
Indeed.
All right, welcome to the show, one and all. It's another one of those topic-free Lollapaloozas that we like to call Comic Talk episodes. So we can talk about anything and everything we want to here, and probably will. But before we do, let's talk about our sponsor. And this episode of Comic Geek Speak is brought to you by the Collection Drawer Company, manufacturer and trademark holder of the ever-popular drawer box storage system, patent pending. So the drawer box, for those of you who don't know, is just kind of a very useful utilitarian twist on the classic cardboard long box, traditionally used for storing comic books. It's about the same dimensions as a long box, but instead of opening via a lid from the top, it opens via a drawer that pulls out of the front for additional accessibility. This means you can stack your comic boxes one atop the other as high as 5 high and still be able to access all the comics they're in without moving boxes around to access them from the top, because you don't access them from the top, you access them via the pull-out drawer. So even if the box is on the bottom of the stack, you can still pull that drawer out, get whatever out that you want, push the drawer back in, and you're good to go. It's very, very handy, and all of us here at CGS have availed ourselves of them at least once in the past. I've got 15 of them at home right now, and badly in need of more if I only had room to put them in. They're available in a variety of sizes and shapes. You can get them in the magazine dimensions, a little bit wider than the comic book version. There's an action figure size. There's a LP record size. You can use them to store sewing supplies. And you can also buy collection drawer accessories, such as the box sort upright dividers, which keep the comics inside of a drawer box from falling over, prevents spine cracking and other damage. Then there's the box locks anchoring system, which helps you stack the drawer boxes higher, and other goodies as well. For full specifications, you can go to the collectiondrawer.com. That's their website.
All righty. Mert, thank you so much. I didn't realize they had action figure-sized drawer boxes.
Oh, yes, they've...
Fantastic.
Innovative bunch out there.
Indeed. All right, as Lord of the Pants would say, this is one of our loosey-goosey trademark pantaloons, comic talk episodes. And
he holds that trademark jointly with Shane, actually.
Ah! Shane Aru, forgive me, brother.
Loosey-goosey, wibbly-wobbly, timey-wimey.
Well done. And we're honored once again to have one of the show's most long-standing allies, Ian Levenstein, with us. Ian, welcome once again.
Good to be here, gentlemen.
And, sir, why don't we start off, just promote your own show a little bit.
Sure. The Comic Timing Podcast has now been going on for more than 10 years. Holy crap, does time fly. Shockingly, I have way less episodes than you folks in that 10-year span. But it's a rotating panel discussion show, usually with me and my regular co-host, Brent Cassina, who lives out in Orlando, getting onto Skype and getting on a third or a fourth and either talking about general comic conversation or perhaps the latest movie that's come out or an actual topic that catches our interest. And it's rotating panels, so it'll be a different third or fourth each time around. We just put out our 183rd episode of the week of this recording with Comfort and Love, Adam Withers, Chris, and myself talking about a discussion that I'm going to bring up on today's episode, actually, which is how actors have began charging more for their appearances at conventions, sort of making it their second source of income, which is, whether or not that's going to negatively affect the convention scene remains to be seen, but that's something that you will be able to hear there. And we just recently put out our New York Comic Con interviews as well Had on the Bensons and some other familiar names to CGS like Julian Lytle and Chad Ciccone and Dave Dwanch and Jamal Igle. So you can check that out over at comictiming.net.
And we were all on your show earlier this year, correct?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
yes,
that was a hell of a good time. Thanks
Oh, yeah.
for having us on, my friend.
Yep.
That was my 10th anniversary celebration.
Right.
Indeed.
Our pleasure to be a part of the celebrational proceedings.
Oh, yes.
Pleasure's all mine.
And Ian, I wanted to segue from that because you have seen Doctor Strange, correct?
Yes, I have. Last night.
And this recording's recording on November 4th, Friday evening. I'm going to see it the next few days. When are you going to see it soon too, Mert, I would assume?
You bet I will. I don't know when yet, but I will.
Yeah, so Ian, I'm just interested in sort of some general sort of spoiler-free comments from you on your experience seeing the movie.
Sure. Well, let me go with the experience of seeing it first.
Okay.
Because for the very first time, Brooklyn has a Alamo Drafthouse. Now, I don't know if you guys have heard of the Alamo Drafthouse, but they are basically the innovators of the dine-in theater experience.
Okay.
And the way that they work is it is no talking, no texting.
Oh, wonderful.
If you talk in the theater or you text, first you get a warning, and if you do it again, you get thrown out. No refund, no questions asked, you're gone. And they just opened up one on DeKalb Avenue here in Brooklyn. It's actually the last stop in Brooklyn on the Q, R, and N train, so very easy for me to get to. And I went there for Doctor Strange last night at 10:15. Got there a little early, had myself a beer, and then went in for their pre-show. What's really awesome about Alamo is they usually have themed pre-shows, and these were all clips having to do with either doctors or previous iterations of Doctor Strange. So they went so they went into the movie history of Doctor Strange and showed a little bit of the 1970s TV movie. And,
fantastic.
And did you guys know that there was a movie that came out, I think, in the 90s that was pretty much a Doctor Strange movie, only it was not actually called Doctor Strange. It was like it was like the Mystic Mordu or something like that, or something like that. Like
no, I'm not familiar with that at all.
Yeah, I'll have to look up like why exactly it wasn't called Doctor Strange, but apparently it's an absolutely horrible movie. So I'm glad it doesn't have Doctor Strange in it. But they showed a little clip of that, and I posted a photo of that on my Facebook as well. But then we sat on down and watched the movie, and what I'll say about it is they're not exactly reinventing the wheel here. No spoilers, but it very much goes within the expected format of a first movie in a Marvel franchise.
Okay.
You get the origin, you get what happens next, you get the conclusion, you get your teasers at the end, you go home happy. Like, nothing's being reinvented here. I will say the special effects are superb.
Oh, excellent.
Yeah.
So important for Doctor Strange.
Absolutely. And considering that just 2 days ago, I believe, was Steve Ditko's birthday, this absolutely does his visual style justice.
Oh, what's what I want to hear.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Very trippy. Like, if you were to... Basically, you could take this as a replacement for drugs if you wanted to. And,
like what I'm hearing here.
Yeah. There's some funny moments as well. Some references I was not expecting within the first couple of minutes that'll probably make you guys very happy. And it also does a good job of establishing the general mysticism universe further. Because before this we had Thor's technology as the only real mysticism we had, and now we have the next step, actual magic. And they go into exactly what's behind that, and what makes
wonderful.
that work. Yeah.
And are there 2 teaser scenes or 1?
There are 2. Yes. There's a mid credits and an end credits.
Okay, so stay till the end. All right.
Yes, indeed. Yeah. The mid credits is following their recent way of doing this. The mid credits is an advancement, and the end credits is what you'll see in Doctor Strange 2.
Okay.
Yeah. So I enjoyed it. It wasn't perfect, but I enjoyed it.
I'm immense. I mean, I'm a huge Benedict Cumberbatch fan. I'm a huge Doctor Strange fan. I love the Ditko interpretation. Yeah, I'm very excited for this.
Yeah, you'll get a kick out of it, Chris, definitely, and you too, Adam. I mean, there's enough in there to make it work. It's just my main problem with Marvel movies, and I'd love to see what you guys think about this as well. Is I feel like there's a villain problem. I've still yet to get a villain other than Loki and I guess Baron Zemo that has really felt like like the type of villain that you could go back to multiple times. You know, like the one that's actually feels like a major threat to the character that is the star of the show. I've yet to really get that past. Arg, I'm filling in because I have to be a villain.
I'm Malekith. I'm Ronan. I'm Yellow Jacket.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and that problem continues here. I mean, I enjoyed the performance. I'm still looking for something more out of my Marvel villains.
Well, it's interesting you mentioned that. I think two things. One, we have to wait and see how they interpret Thanos.
Yes.
If they give us the Thanos that we know, who is a very complex character who is following a certain code and has certain motivations, he'll be a knockdown, drag out, fascinating villain. If they give us like a cardboard cutout version of Thanos, I'm universe beater, and that's not going to be particularly compelling. But I have a lot of faith in the director. It's the Russo brothers, right?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
They've done my favorite movies in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, so I'm very confident in that. The second thing I would say is, and this is just my own personal prejudice, this cinematic universe, in terms of villains, is incomplete because there's no Doctor Doom in this cinematic universe.
Exactly what I was thinking, yeah.
And not the ridiculous iterations we've seen in that the Fantastic Four movie of 2 years ago. I mean, let's put it this way. I went with my dear old friend Ryan and Dan to see it at a theater where they provided alcohol. Ryan kept having to drink throughout the movie. So we have not been given the grandeur, the majesty, and the diabolical nobility of Doom. Yeah. And I think because as readers of that universe, we know his place in it, and an average moviegoer probably not going to feel this the way I would, but he's missed.
Yes.
Deeply. And you don't really have – now they may do – hopefully they'll do this with Thanos, but I agree with you, you don't really have that type of villain yet.
Yeah, because they haven't got back to the one villain that I felt was even close to that other than Loki, and that's Red Skull, because Hugo Weaving said he didn't want to come back. And that's
he did. He was fantastic as the Red Skull.
Yep, he did. Yeah. Wanted to try the superhero genre once and then walk away from it, and that's what he did.
Exactly.
Fair enough.
Yeah. And by the way, Mads Mikkelsen, I mean, not to take credit away from him, he is fantastic as the main villain in this, because yes, he is a great actor, and Hannibal is one of the best shows I've ever seen. But I need more, man. I need something to actually make me think I want to see this villain come back over and over and over again.
Well, I think you get that with Loki because Hiddleston's performance is so indelible.
Definitely.
But like you said, the Marvel Universe cinematic now is such a huge tapestry that they're weaving that obviously we're just because it's so well done, we're hungry for more. Mm-hmm. So I hear you there. That's a good transition. Let's go back to your original topic then about actors appearing at comic shows.
Sure. Yeah.
So I'm not familiar with with this whole premise. I'm looking forward to you giving some discourse on it. So they're asking for much larger fees to appear. Is that?
Yeah, essentially, and this really started with Stephen Amell, and he actually created his own, I guess, not like actors, like I guess acting like cabal, or actual I'm trying to look for the word, agent, like an actual agent studio, for actors to ensure that they were getting due compensation for appearing at these shows. And the way that the article put it is that these guys could wind up making $20,000 in $20 bills off of a weekend going to a convention where they get their fee for appearing and then wind up charging for autographs the entire time. And this works well for actors that say, perfect example, Jewel Staite is currently pregnant. And she said, I can't appear in movies right now, but I can still show up to conventions and be, hey, I'm Kaylee from Firefly, give me your money. and that's exactly what she does. But it brings up the question, will this wind up bringing up prices at the convention themselves for those who attend and for those who exhibit?
Aren't they already way up there as it is?
Yes, and as someone who paid $80 for one day of Star Trek Mission New York at the Javits Center a couple of months ago, I wonder what the ceiling is going to be. Like, if a family has to pay as much as they would pay for their trip to Disney, is a convention worth it?
Well, I would look at this from two perspectives. One, as a retailer, I've given up vending at most shows, with the exception of my old friend John Paul's 25-year run shows in New Jersey, NewJerseyComicBookShows.com, which are true comic book shows, because, I'll give you an example. I won't mention the company, and I don't mean that as an insult, it's just, I'm not going to say anything, but I got an invitation to do a show recently in New Jersey where they're having a lot of big-name artists, and for one table, like a 10-by-10 space with one 8-foot table, $550 to vend there. Now, it's not just about not being able to afford it. It's also the amount of stuff I would have to sell, because it's mostly like low-ticket, bulk-type stuff, just to make table cost back, when I'm already paying for a storefront that I have, that I want more people to come visit. It's just not worth it. And I have to assume that part of that is, granted, this is also the metropolitan area, so everything's through the roof in terms of promotional costs in renting a space. And then if they got to pay these large fees to these celebrities to show up, because let's face it, if you want to have a mega show, you can't just have comics, and you're not going to have people to justify the cost of renting out the space you're using. It's inevitably only going to go up. And then from a consumer perspective, I'll go to like a regional show, good shows, but they're not enormous, and you're paying $30-$40 just to get in, right? And then for a day, and then all the other miscellaneous costs. And if you decide you want to buy things or get autographs or whatever it is you're there for, it's quite a nut. And there's such a glut now of comic shows. I mean, or these multimedia shows. I mean, almost every weekend. Yeah. You can throw a stone somewhere and it's going to hit, one of these conventions, and I have to wonder, when is that going to implode, right? Just kind of like you had the saturation in the 90s in terms of the actual comic book market. Now you have the saturation of shows, all kind of competing for, let's face it, and this is why they've so much expanded what they have at these shows. The comic book part of it is such a small niche. They got to bring in all this other stuff to maximize the number of people getting through the door. To cover all these costs associated with these shows. How long is that going to continue? Because, again, I'm a broken record, but the average American citizen really doesn't have that much disposable income.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so, you can talk about credit cards and, the recession's over and all that propaganda, but at the end of the day, the average person, working class, middle class, they don't have that much room.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to nearly as many shows as I used to because A, it's so expensive, and B, and this is not a put down. Just the multimedia thing is just not my thing.
Right.
I just want to go. I want to go to like my local shows that John does and just go through long boxes, and I vended some of them too because he doesn't rape you when it comes to tables, and that's what I'm into. That's an old fashioned comic show, but. For reasons of economic necessity, which I understand, they got to bring all this stuff in. And like you're saying here, if these artists or these actors are getting huge lines of people, I don't blame them. Of course, they're going to charge more for what they're doing. Right. But again, how long can people afford that in terms of the regular people going to these events?
Sure, and I don't blame them for it either because if the money is there, you're obviously going to take full advantage of that. And it's not like it's not like these guys are like giving ultimatums like give me like double what you gave me last year or anything. It's just like this is market rate and this is going to keep going up. And I mean Stephen Amell created what he did because he felt like his fellow actors and he himself as well were not being appreciated as much as they should be for going to all these shows. And Amell treats his fans better than almost anybody. When he was trapped, there was a show that happened in New Jersey this past winter where they were snowed in, and Amell wound up buying dinner for like the entire show because they were all trapped there. He wound up helping a woman's car that was stuck in a snowdrift out of the snowdrift. Like, he's an absolutely sweetheart of a guy, which is why I don't blame him at all for wanting to make money. Because, of course, why wouldn't you?
Is he Canadian?
Is he? I think he might be. I'm not quite sure. Yeah.
I just love Canadians. Canadians just love their general sense of the sort of the social compact,
right?
Which I find very refreshing.
He was born in 1981 in Toronto, so yes, he is Canadian.
Oh,
there you go. Yeah, but I mean, it's just one of those things where you can see the shift happening at shows, and they're not Comic Cons anymore, but at the same time, they're still Comic Cons. So you got to make you got to find the in between somewhere.
And the other thing is, like for some of these actors, regardless of their talents, for a lot of them, they're only really, quote, hot for a certain period of time.
Absolutely.
And then if their show ends or they get older, whatever the circumstances are, and for many of them, this becomes a big part of their income. So, more power to them. Again, I just think about, well, how long can the economy sustain when there's such a glut of these types of shows? I mean, especially where I live. My God, they're all over the place.
There was a weekend.
Yeah,
there was a weekend that William Shatner was at 4 shows in a weekend.
Shatner, fantastic.
Shatner started off the weekend, I believe, Salt Lake City, made his way to, I think, Heroes Con or some other con that was happening that same weekend, then wound up at Mission, New York, and then wound up in Canada. So, if they're there, do it.
What do you think about all that, Murd?
I really don't have much to say on the subject, Chris. Well, like you, I've the multimedia stuff really isn't generally a part of my convention-going experience. I just assume that those celebrity signing I never go near those celebrity signing lines. They don't even need to be there, as far as I'm concerned. So, I don't really have any input as to what these people charge.
Fair enough.
I will add, though, that this last New York Comic Con actually happened to be my favorite of the past couple of years. I didn't go to one panel, and I just walked the floor and hung up with friends. So, go figure. I'm part of the problem, I guess, at the same time. But as long as I'm enjoying myself, then,
No, you have nothing to apologize. You have nothing to apologize for. If you're enjoying yourself, that's what matters. I just gave up a New York Comic Con because because I went the first, 3 or 4 shows they did, at least. But just the crowds just got to be too much for me, and plus there was just, and again, economic reasons, I get it, comics just seem to be diminished more and more at that show in terms of actual, and I get it, and there are other reasons why I didn't go, which are, let's just say, private business reasons that I won't go into here.
Sure.
Having to do with that show and the way it was treating retailers.
Understood.
And podcasters for that matter. But
Yeah.
So, but I remember. I go to the Pittsburgh Steel City Con, often because I got good friends out there. Danny Boy, hope you're listening. Hope you're doing well. And be going there out in December, and that's a really fun local show. A lot of toys and comics, and they get their celebrities. A lot of B-listers, right? Some A-listers though too. But even to get into that show, it's like $30 or $40. Right, for the one day, and again, it's just another example of what's going to be the breaking point when it comes to people's wallets, right? I mean, we all value our entertainment, and that we look to that to sort of provide us diversions from other aspects of our daily life that maybe aren't as rewarding for us sometimes. But there's a lot of competition out there for that con dollar.
Absolutely.
So.
I'll end it with this, that one of the best niche shows that I've gone to in the past couple of years. I went to the first ever. This is the second ever annually, but the first time I ever went. It's called FlameCon here in New York, and it was an LGBT themed comic convention.
Oh wow!
And it was small. It was in a room at a Brooklyn hotel here, I believe the Marriott, if I remember correctly, in downtown Brooklyn. And it was just, a dealer's area with a whole bunch of creators in it. And one of the most friendliest, inviting atmospheres I've ever experienced. Everybody was happy. Everybody was having a good time. Everybody was selling their wares and being proud to. There were panels that were interesting. Chris Claremont showed up on Sunday. to do a panel randomly. And I need more atmospheres like that. I need more just like places where I feel like everybody is absolutely happy to be there. And the niche shows are where you find that.
Absolutely.
So, yeah, definitely. How did your Halloween sale go, by the way?
Oh, God.
Oh.
Little sore subject.
No, it's not a sore subject. It's just, it was horrible.
Okay.
I've done HCF at least 4 times, I think. And the first couple were very solid. Last year, unfortunately, they had us release the free comics on Halloween, and I should have known that was not going to work out. And let me put it this way, Ian. Last year's sale was a bonanza compared to this year. And this year was not on Halloween. A couple of things. I think that's just a bad time period to do that kind of event because people are so busy with so many other things. Ryan, my dear old friend, told me about trunk or treating, which I didn't even know about, which apparently a lot of people are now doing. So there's a lot of that going on this past Saturday, the 29th. And I have to be honest. I was telling Mert about this previously. Is that as a comic shop owner, when I used to do sales pre-recession, and we would do these massive 29-hour sales with artists, and we'd open the door, there were at least 50 people lined up outside, if not more.
Yeah.
This sale, there were 10. And I had maybe a maximum, maybe 20 people in the shop at any one time. So, long story short, this is why Wildpig Comics is far more a gaming store now than it is a comic book store. And I say that with not to be dismissive towards gaming at all. I respect it, and a lot of the people we have gaming in our store are very nice people, and that's a big part of what we do now because the comic book people, a lot of them just aren't there anymore for, I think, a whole host of reasons, economic, other technologies, other forms of entertainment, sure. The increasingly suicidal price point of the single-issue comic. Don't even get me started on Diamond because I can't speak too freely about that because of the fact that I am a retailer who still buys their products. But let's just say we're going to be making a lot more changes in my store in the very near future because we have to. Because it's just things are changing for a lot of reasons we've talked about on the air many times. I'm not going to get into too much detail here, but one thing that will not change, though, is my devotion to back issues. Because most of the people who did come, they were buying back issues. Mm-hmm. So that's always nice to see. And granted, our back issues are very cheap. And I really take pride in maintaining that. But thank the stars for Magic the Gathering. Let me put it that way. But I will still do FCBD in the spring, because that traditionally usually does well. And one of my oldest, most loyal customers, a fine man by the name of Larry Baumer, has said to me, he said, Chris, he said, you know what? HCF, he says, it's kind of like the ghetto FCBD, and I think he's right.
Yeah.
And I think this is a case. I kind of think like the Marvel Zombie thing. We kind of like run something into the ground.
Right.
I think they're kind of doing that here with this, and I think just leave FCBD as a 15-year pedigree now. Leave that where it is, and we will not be doing HCF again. Let's put it that way.
Yeah,
understood.
Cloned cash grab of the popular, better publicized spring event, and it's pretty much what it amounts to.
Yeah. How many auctions did Pants win?
Well, he won a couple because the auction was pathetic too, because so few people were there that
were a total of 15 participants. I counted.
Okay.
Thank you, Mert. And I thought it was less than that even. But that I mean, if I didn't have people where they came there for that, I would have canceled it because we took a bath on that.
Yeah. Sorry to bring up the sore subjects.
No, it's not sore. I'm always happy to talk about the business and what's going on with it, and you know,
things are what they are. You know.
Yeah, I mean, like I've said before, I don't have a new comic wall anymore in my shop.
Yeah,
I've got new trades. We have reservists, but I got tired of having like 6 short boxes on the floor of new comics we couldn't sell. But you know, why would you spend $4 for something you read in 10 minutes with ads? So
understood. Yeah,
you know.
I mean, I feel the same way. I mean, I buy. I mean, I'm doing Marvel Unlimited a lot, and I'm doing there's websites where you can buy codes from the Marvel comics that I'm buying for like $1.
Oh, sure.
You know, because why not?
Well, the last thing I'll say that's on a positive note to end this part of our discussion. A positive note is that, and I was talking about this with my manager Bill I'm a magnificent manager, Bill, is that
Ew.
the creators who have control over their properties, like the image creators, they are giving you the bang for your buck. Because when I think of like a Brubaker comic or a Vaughn comic, you're getting an essay. You're getting a very heartfelt multi-page letters page, right? You're getting a lot for that $350, which is also cheaper than a Marvel comic, for example. Right. And that's, again, where I think a company like Image should be supported and championed, because as far as I'm concerned, that company has realized its full potential now, and what, once, I'll just give my opinion, because I'm opinionated, as everybody is on a podcast. Once you got rid of a lot of the mediocre hack creators who started that company, and you brought in like the real talent, who can exercise their skills in every genre imaginable, that company has realized what the American comic book can fully achieve.
Oh, sure.
And the fact you're seeing a lot of their titles optioned for multimedia, and that it's all creator-owned stuff, I am celebrating that company and a lot of the titles they're producing. So the irony is there's so many great comics out now to read. I mean, I think that we're going through like a real golden age period, to borrow that term, right now. It's just really freaking hard to sell them.
Yep.
So, that's what I'll say there.
Yeah.
Go ahead, sir. Go ahead, please.
Well, I was going to say that one of the things I brought home from when I took a trip to San Francisco back in May, and one of the things I brought home was Katie Cook's variant cover to Sex Criminals, talking about single issues at Image. Like you keep letting Katie Cook do like explicit images on the covers of comics, and I will continue buying those single issues because
I was all in for that one too, Ian.
Yep.
I don't think I've gotten it out of its pink poly bag yet, but one day.
Indeed. Yeah.
Speaking of, I'm sorry, Ian, please go ahead.
Well, no, I please, go right ahead.
No, I was just going to transition to talk about some new comics I'm reading that I want people to be aware of.
Yeah.
Excuse me, I think are magnificent. From the Valiant line, Britannia, which I believe, I don't have it in front of me. I want to say it's written by Peter Gillis.
Peter Milligan.
Peter Milligan, forgive me, that's right. I'm a huge fan of, a student, I should say, of ancient Rome. And this is a gripping comic. The art is gorgeous. It's a detective story. It's about a Roman centurion who gets involved with the Vestal Virgins, and he's during the time of the Emperor Nero, certainly one of Rome's more colorful emperors, to put it that way. And he's sent on a mission to the province of Britannia, which Rome controlled in Nero's time, or controlled much of it, to investigate some supernatural goings-on there. And it's a great detective story. It knows its history. They have essays in the back by scholars on different aspects of the Roman Empire of that time. The art, forgive me, I don't have the artist's name in front of me, is breathtaking.
Juan Jose Rip is the man's name.
Murd, you're filling Pants' role ably here. And
doing what I can.
What's that, Murd?
Doing what I can, I said. I'm only one man, and that man is not Pants, but I'm trying.
Honored, sir. But it's another example of just what comics can do, that they can take any – this is like an historical detective story with supernatural elements, and it's gripping. I also wanted to mention really fun new licensed comic, Tarzan on the Planet of the Apes.
Oh, wow.
Co-written by Tim Seeley and David Walker. If you're a Planet of the Apes fan, and I'm a huge Planet of the Apes fan, they're combining the world of Tarzan with history from the first 3 original Planet of the Apes films. In that you recall that at the end of Beneath the Planet of the Apes, Zira, Cornelius, and Milo escape on Taylor's old rocket ship. And in this version, they end up going all the way back in time to like the era of Tarzan. And it's really well done. And there's been 2 issues I highly recommend it. If you're a Planet of the Apes fan, a Tarzan fan, you just love good pulp, good science fiction. Once again, David Walker is a writer I'm thoroughly enjoying everything that he's been doing now the past couple of years. Power Man and Iron Fist, Shaft, Nighthawk. Now this is another series I highly recommend. I also wanted to mention they released not too long ago a deluxe hardcover version of The Fade Out by the dream team of Brubaker and Sean Phillips. And I want to say this one on Eisner. I hope so, because it certainly deserves it. It's a Hollywood noir murder mystery. It takes place in the late 40s. Now, this is a team I've read everything this team has done. I think this is their finest work. If you love like that old Hollywood, the noir, Phillips just knocks it out of the park in terms of capturing that world in his art. No one does noir better than Brubaker in terms of storytelling, as far as I'm concerned. It's the entire series collected. Highest possible recommendation. Definitely check out The Fade Out.
It won the Eisner for Best Limited Series in the 2016 Eisner.
Thank you, sir, and it utterly deserved it.
Yep.
And you guys have any current titles you wanted to wax rhapsodic about?
Well, I have a manga that I've been reading.
Please.
Actually, since I always like to recommend something new manga-wise to Murd. Indeed. I've been reading Food Wars of late. Now, have either of you heard of it?
I've heard of it, yes.
Okay.
Not sure I have.
So Food Wars, it's sort of, I guess the best way to describe it, it's almost a cross between Iron Chef and Dragon Ball Z. In the way that it's definitely a battle manga, but it's food-based. The main character's name is Soma. And he's a middle school aged kid who's just entering high school, and he winds up in a fight for his father's restaurant in the very first volume, which ends with him winning with a meal he has to cook up at the very last possible second. With whatever ingredients he had on hand, because his meat locker was sabotaged, and he winds up making what he called I believe a fake pork roll. Basically, like he took a whole bunch of bacon and rolled it up like a pork loin, and made it, and like made these woman like the woman like loved it so much, like it basically like she had an orgasm on the spot, essentially. Like it's a very ecchi style manga, but still, not like porn or anything. It's just like it has a whole bunch of imagery that could be, taken sexually if you really want to go there. But Soma winds up entering this special high school in Japan, which could never actually possibly exist, but exists in this manga. That is the Culinary Institute of Culinary Institutes. And he comes in as a transfer student when all of these kids had been working towards their goal of being the number one chef for years now. And he comes in, and on first day, he goes to the mic and says, "Hey guys, I'm going to be number one at the school soon. See you guys later." And he walks off. So he's immediately everyone's enemy. And this chronicles his growth as a cook and his time spent at the school as he tries to find himself as a chef and try to be the number one on the top of the board at this high school. And the art is fantastic. It's done by Shun Saiki. I'm sure I'm butchering that. And written by Yuto Sakuda. And I believe 13 volumes are out here in the U.S. so far. And there's also an anime that's 2 seasons in. If you'd rather watch it instead of reading it, but I've been getting it from the New York Public Library, and I just got volumes 12 and 13, finished 11 last week, and it is one of my favorite series that I read. And the best part, they include recipes in every single one. So if you want to just take a photo with your phone or scan it in and decide you want to make a recipe that was made in the book, you can just go ahead and do so and follow their instructions. Very cool.
All right, outstanding, sir.
Yep.
How about you, Murray? Any new books you want to talk about?
I don't actually, but I'm going to sort of piggyback on your remarks about Britannia, though, because that's a series that I'm too buying and enjoying. I echo all of your praise. It's a well-written historical fiction / detective story. Milligan's done his research into classical Roman culture, and it's an interesting setting too, being set in the ancient Roman colony of the British Isles. And the artwork by Juan Jose Ripa. The first time I encountered his artwork was when he did the Black Summer story with by Warren Ellis, which is about a superhero who who assassinates George W. Bush and forces the United States to start the electoral process over. He drew that, and his artwork has certainly improved since then. I'm going to add one sort of Surgeon General's warning to it, though. Having read the first issue, after the sickening disappointment that was The Discipline, which was also written by Peter Milligan, and which we reviewed as an off-the-rack pick some time ago, that contained graphic images of demon rape of a young human woman. And the first issue of Britannia kind of drifts perilously close to that same territory, because there is a scene where the main character rescues a young woman who's been left as a sacrifice in some kind of druidic ritual to some kind of elder god, slimy green thing from beyond, which is about to have its way with her when the main character rescues her. So I don't know what it is about what's going on in Peter Milligan's life right now that this is becoming kind of a theme for him, but I wonder if we ought to be planning an intervention or something.
Oh, boy.
I actually forgot about that till you mentioned it. He rescues one of the Vestal Virgins, doesn't he?
Was that who it was?
I think so. I have to read it again, but I think Britannia is. I mean, I've read the first two issues. I think it's far better written than the first issue of The Discipline was.
I agree with that, certainly.
And because I like Peter Milligan as a writer very much, so I was really pleased to, at least from my perspective, see him, back in stride, so to speak, with this story. And plus, I'm such a passionate student of ancient Rome that it's just fun to see it being captured, this period of it, in this story. And it's a detective story too, so you can't beat that. But
it's a detective story set in the days of ancient Rome. I mean, how many of those have even been published?
Yeah.
I might want to pick that up in trade, honestly. I mean,
no, go ahead, Ian. Go ahead.
I was going to say I've been getting more and more into historical type comics lately. So this
actually
my alley.
Ian, I'm going to put on my history teacher hat for a moment. You mentioned before that the theater you went to is on DeKalb Avenue.
Yes, it is.
All right. Do you know who that is?
I should, but I don't.
No, that's okay. Because I just taught him in class recently, just briefly. He was a general who fought for the United States in the American Revolution on the side of the Continental Army, of course.
Gotcha.
And he was a German. Now, people think, of course, of Baron von Steuben, who's the most famous German who helped the United States in the Revolution. But DeKalb heroically gave his life fighting the British in the South, the Battle of Camden in South Carolina. And General Horatio Gates, a opportunistic, ambitious, deeply overrated general in his own mind, who tried to unseat Washington through political scheming and failed. He was in charge of that battle. He ran off the field and left his men behind. And DeKalb tried to rally our forces, and we were overrun by the British. And the British, he was shot multiple times before he fell.
Wow.
And Cornwallis, a name we've all heard of, I'm sure, the British commander, was so moved by his bravery that he kind of honored him on the field. That's why you see DeKalb's name all over the United States. There's DeKalb like Turnpike in Pennsylvania and streets, counties. Because he gave his life for the cause essentially. So
that's fascinating.
Yeah, just wanted to give him a little bit of props there.
You might be interested. I went to Trinity Church this last
yes,
and got to visit a bunch of the graves of many of our country's finest men and women. Hamilton's buried there, along with Eliza, and Hercules Mulligan's grave is there as well. And basically, just went on a Hamilton tour because we wound up at the I just had the name like 2 seconds ago. The oldest bar in New York.
I know.
Francis Tavern. There you go.
Yep, Francis Tavern. That's right. Yep.
We wound up there for dinner afterwards, and it's nice. It's nice to be able to live in a city that has that much history in it and so many places to visit.
Absolutely. Yep. Little tangent there. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for your patience.
No, thank you.
Of course. I wanted to transition on a sad note. I was so shocked to hear Steve Dillon passed. I think it was about 2 weeks ago now. In fact, I was with my family. We're shopping in IKEA, which is often both a pleasurable and a hellish experience all at the same time, for getting some furniture for my children. And, again, my dear old friend Ryan Feeden texted me like, hey, here's Steve Dillon died. And I had to stop in the store. I was so shocked because he was only in his 50s. And one of my favorite artists. And I just wanted to just mention that because his contribution, obviously, Preacher is what he's most famous for, but his work on Hellblazer, The Demon, all his work with Garth Ennis, The Punisher, of course, is also well known for. And I have a personal anecdote. I went to a comic show in the 90s. I don't remember where it was. It was in New York, somewhere in the city. And he was one of the guests. It was right at, just as Preacher was really breaking. And, very friendly, like hearty Irishman. Now, this is back in the mid-90s. He did a free sketch for every single person in line.
Wow.
And I have in my shop, because the people, my good friend Randy, who co-founded Wildpig with me, and the aforementioned Ryan, they donated their sketches to me. So I have a Tulip sketch, a Cassie sketch, and an Arseface sketch in my store.
I was admiring them at Halloween Comic Fest. I saw that.
Yes, and I cherish them. And do we have any information on what happened to him? Like
ruptured appendix is what I'd read.
Say it again, Bert?
Sorry, ruptured appendix. Complications from that.
Geez.
Really?
Boy.
Oh.
Man, that's rough. Yeah. I'm reading Preacher for the first time, by the way. I finished Volume 2. I actually have Volume 3 sitting in my work bag right now to be read. I've been getting it out from the library. And, I mean, I'd been familiar with Dillon's work from mostly his Punisher stuff before this and a couple other places, but God, he brings so much life to Preacher. I mean, every single page, you could tell just how much fun he's having drawing it all. I was so sad to hear the news, and we've lost way too many people this year, man. 2016's been rough.
Yeah. And now that Mert, you tell me usually in the modern era, if it's caught in time, you certainly survive having your appendix go, but I don't know, maybe it was fast. I don't know, but God, that sucks.
Yes, terrible.
But
shame that.
Ian, go ahead, Bert. I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. I'm just clearing my throat here. Shame that it happened so young, and you're right. It is kind of an unusual way for a person to die in 2016. But yeah, and let me just follow along in the wake of Ian's remarks, because I, like Ian, I'm experiencing Preacher for the first time myself. Because when we did our Book of the Month on the first couple of volumes a little while ago, that was my baptism by fire there. And thanks again to our friend Rob Anderson, who sent us like a complete collection of Preacher trades that he was thinking of giving away to Goodwill. Instead, gave them away to us. So I've gotten as far as Volume 6, and I was actually in the middle of reading it a little while ago when I learned about Steve Dillon's passing. And Ian is very much correct when he says that Dillon breathed so much life into this concept of Ennis's. It's very much the product of two parents. There, it's
absolutely.
It's disliked by some for the over the top gore and almost like burlesque level violence and depravity that Ennis throws in there. So sometimes one assumes just to keep himself entertained through the run of the series. But Dillon's artwork is a constant. It's so vivacious, and it's clean, and it's expressive, and I think it was Eric Nolan Wethington on the forum said that it uses just enough caricature to keep it loose, but without ever becoming like full on cartooned.
And, even when being overly gory, it's absolutely beautiful.
Yeah, it even makes the gore beautiful. It's like he seems to. I think, as you hinted at, Ian, he reveled in drawing these disgusting, horrible, atrocious things that Ennis was giving him, and just this clean, slick. Just teetering on the brink between caricature and realism. It makes the depravity seem that much more depraved, that the atrocities that much more atrocious for this sort of clean, innocent realism that he lays on top of them. And you could picture him. I don't think he did that much in the way of straight superheroics, but it's a style that would be comfortable delineating the adventures of Superman, say. But instead, he's drawing people, eating other people's legs and so forth.
Well, I would echo that, Murray, because there's that visceral joy you get from his work. When we did that Book of the Month, I remember commenting on, and for me this sums up Steve Dillon, nobody draws better looks of shock and amazement as someone is being shot or stabbed
or
cudgeled. Yeah, and like the expressions he has on people's faces, just the look of utter amazement as like their jaws hanging off their head or like their entrails are hanging out. And it's horrifying, but it's amusing at the same time because he just captures that astonished, like, oh my God, what just happened to my body? And no one does that better. And I always think back to, on that series, which I revere Preacher, but again, the over-the-top, almost, thrilling violence that he depicted, but also, again, the quiet moments, like Tulip and Jesse being intimate or just having conversations in a diner, or when he has flashbacks in history with various characters, when he revisits Cassie's origin in Ireland or in the Easter Rising in 1916 and so forth. I mean, the guy could do it all, and like his Punisher stuff is thrilling. I mean, just the way he captured the combat, the violence, the world of the Punisher, and just how over the top in some ways, but also the humor, which of course Innes is a master of, and I think of characters like Soap and the Russian and all, and it's just there was no one quite like his style is so singular and just so invigorating, and I'm just so heartsick that he died. I think he was 54, something in that area. That what a loss for the medium.
Yeah, 54 years old. That's what the New York Times says. I am glad that he lived just long enough to see our space on screen.
Yes.
I mean, that he got to see Preacher becoming a part of the lexicon the way that it has over the past year. I'm glad that at least he got that.
Well, he's an artist who, for the rest of my life, I will always cherish his work and certainly revisit it.
Yep.
I wanted to transition as we're talking about multimedia a little bit here. Not to spoil because Murd hasn't seen it, but I have to gush about Luke Cage for a moment.
Please go right ahead. Yeah.
Now, what number episode are you on, Ian?
I am 2 away from the finale, if I remember correctly.
Okay, so you're ahead of me. I've watched the first 7. Again, it's amazing to me how Marvel, with their Netflix properties, everyone I've watched just captivates me more and more. I'm so impressed by how everyone has a different vibe that's conducive to the character that they're presenting to you. And especially after the second Luke Cage episode, I was like, oh, God, they got it again. I mean, they're so paying homage to the blaxploitation roots of that character, but not in a hammy or over-the-top way, which wouldn't be appropriate in the 2010s as it would be in 1971 or 1972, but the music, I mean, this is the best Marvel show in terms of how well they use the music in this show.
Oh, absolutely.
It's got that, it's modern, but it has that 70s feel, and the way they do the lighting and the cityscapes, and just, his role in it, and I am absolutely riveted by this show. And some people have said it's kind of like Marvel's version of The Wire, and, I mean, The Wire is one of the greatest TV shows ever made. So I wouldn't put it on that level, but I can definitely see where they're coming from when people say that. And I can't – forgive me, what's the name of the actor who plays Luke Cage?
Oh, is it Mike Coulter, I believe?
Mike Coulter, yes.
Yeah.
I'm so impressed with this performance because you sense the sass. He says Sweet Christmas every once in a while, but it's in so many ways it's understated in a way that I find so effective because you just feel like the seething power within this man. No pun intended there. And how he's – it's a very restrained performance, but in a way that I find so effective and gripping. And again, just I love Rosario Dawson. I'll admit it right here. She is like if I can be in love with an actress, I'm in love with her. I love her in everything she's in. She's so perfect in this role, from Daredevil to Jessica Jones to this. They've used her character so well throughout as they move her towards like the night nurse category, or just that character, although she's also Claire Temple as well, the nice amalgam of the two. But and how they've taken and merged, you'll appreciate this when you see it. They go into Luke Cage's Bronze Age Rogues Gallery, which is one of the most ridiculous Rogues Gallery in Marvel Universe history, but they update it, they make it work so effectively in this story.
Have I heard that Black Mariah is on the show?
Absolutely.
Yes,
all right.
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah. In fact, she's a major driving force.
Absolutely.
Of the series. Yeah.
But they clearly know Luke Cage's history. They've clearly read all of the books, and both the Bronze Age stuff and then like the Azzarello updates and all of that, and it works. And I am so excited to see how they create his dynamic with Iron Fist, because I come home because I don't have the time to watch these like in one sitting, so I'm slowly going through them between my schedule. I look forward to each episode with bated breath. Ian, what's your take on it, just in general, without spoiling for people? But
well, I actually got to watch the first 2 episodes in a theater in Harlem.
Oh wow!
Yeah, as part of my Marvel Unlimited Plus membership, I get invites for events that are happening, and really, I'll say this, and I 100% believe this: unless you live in New York or Los Angeles, a Marvel Unlimited Plus membership is not worth it. Because all of the events that wind up happening, all the special events that wind up getting, I mean, sure, you get that package with like a freaking action figure in it and like 3 or 4 comics and like a membership card, but you get all these invites for screenings and special events that are happening in either New York or Los Angeles. And I got to see Daredevil Season 2, the first 2 episodes before they aired at Lincoln Center, and that it was in a freaking double-decker theater with the entire cast and crew sitting on the first level and all the fans on the second level.
Oh wow!
Yeah, for this one, it was a Magic Johnson Theater in Harlem. Mike Coulter came in because it's a smaller theater, so there was only room for like all the fans in one and all the celebrities in the other. But he came in and thanked us for being there and introduced us to the first 2 episodes and watched them. And watching those 2 episodes in a theater with a crowd and sitting next to a bunch of black men who were just so happy to see Harlem come to life on the screen, and everybody in the theater, like a black, white, that didn't frickin' matter, were just completely enraptured with it. And as a lifelong New Yorker as well, that's what I'm in love with these series, is that they bring New York to life in so many different ways. And I'll say this, Hell's Kitchen doesn't exist anymore. Hell's Kitchen is not a crime-ridden neighborhood anymore. Has not been for years. It's a frickin', there's $1 million apartments in Hell's Kitchen now because it's of where it is. But they gave us a reason for it to be crime ridden again due to the incidents of the Avengers and all that. And that made perfect sense. Harlem as well. Harlem is not quite the way that it's portrayed in this anymore, but the personality that they give that area just filled me with such joy. And Harlem is as much of a character as Luke Cage is, and that's
yes, absolutely.
I am so in love with that. On the one negative, just like I was talking about with Doctor Strange and how the villains can become a problem, my main issue with the Netflix series is they have a little bit of a difficulty sticking the landing, and I'm feeling, at least in the last 2 or 3 episodes that I watched, that there's a pivot that happens. I'm not going to give it away, no spoilers, but there's a pivot that happens in the show that makes it a little bit more traditional superhero and a little bit less grounded.
Okay.
That I'm not quite sold with as much as I was the first 7 or 8 episodes. But from what I hear, the landing is a lot better. The last 2 episodes, they get a little bit back to where they were.
Oh.
So we'll see how that goes.
I'm looking forward to it. And I mean, I'm not a New Yorker. I mean, I've visited many times, but you live there. But yeah. I would echo that New York City is so intrinsic to the Marvel Universe's sort of sense of itself.
Oh, absolutely.
That I agree with that. The Netflix shows have done such a good job of reminding us how that cityscape is such an integral character in those stories. And the use of the barbershop in the Luke Cage show is brilliant. And is really at the core of the whole plot, essentially. And I also want to compliment the actress playing Misty Knight is spot on.
Yes, she's
I really enjoy her interpretation of the character, and I was so pleased that they introduced her character in that show. And they're clearly moving towards where all these characters on Netflix are going to interact in some way. And they started that, with Claire Temple, but they're going to obviously eventually. I'm sure we're going to see, Matt Murdock defending somebody, or it's going to all start to come together. But it's again, they just can't seem to do much wrong at this point. And I'm just so much enjoying this ride. It's DC. Are you paying attention? DC, are you paying attention? Because
speaking of DC, to pivot a little bit.
Yeah.
This season of DC shows, they're hitting on all cylinders for me. Supergirl, Flash stuttered a little bit out of the gate and has gotten a little bit better as it's gone. Arrow's better than it's been in at least the last 2 seasons, and Legends of Tomorrow for me bounced back so much after a lukewarm first season. So far, what they're doing with the second season has been superb, especially with who they introduce.
Unfortunately, because of scheduling and logistics and parenting, I can't. It's hard for me to keep up with all these shows. Like I'm thrilled that they finally put Flash season 2 on Netflix because I loved season 1 and I haven't even seen season 2 yet. Arrow season 2 I thought was tremendous, but I'm still in the midst of season 3. Supergirl, I'm only one or two back. I love that show.
Oh my god. That is the best TV Superman I think I've ever gotten.
Well, just first of all, the actress's interpretation of Kara is so invigorating, so life affirming. She's Supergirl. Like it's so well done. What do you guys think of the interpretation? Because I saw how Superman's presented on that show when they brought him in.
Bird, have you watched it?
Oh, yes, of course. Yeah, that's that and The Flash are the only 2 comic book derived TV shows I'm actually following at this point that I've actually kept abreast of. And yes, Supergirl continues to be a breath of fresh air. It's as you said, Chris, it's all very, very positive and life affirming. And so is the Superman that we got to see there. I agree with you, Ian. It probably is the best interpretation of Superman that we've seen on the small screen, and that's even going back as far as like George Reeves. So he was only in for a few episodes, and I'm glad that I was a little afraid at first that they were going to have him hanging around National
City
for the whole season, and that would have gotten a little bit old. But nope, he stuck around a little bit and long enough time to establish himself as a character, to reaffirm his relationship with Kara, which is just pitch perfect. The way he's not lording it over her in any way. He's sort of gently mentoring her along, but she's proving that she's, in some ways, his equal, even though in other ways not. And the costume is still in pretty good shape. I still miss the red trunks on the outside, but one can't have everything. And he just radiates that quiet strength and benevolence and good nature that Superman should have. Yeah. And I was just very pleased with the way they handled that character.
I agree.
He's got that charm that you want to see out of a Superman.
Yep.
Is anybody else feeling a little the jar of the transition between CBS and CW, and therefore the transition between being filmed in California and being filmed in Vancouver?
Well, you know what, Adam? I noticed it a little bit in the first episode, and I mean, even in the tone of it, like how they basically just threw out the booming relationship between Jimmy and Kara because they realized.
Yeah, I wasn't thrilled about that actually.
Yeah,
I like their relationship, but anyway,
I'm okay with it being over. They rushed it, like they definitely decided that they didn't want to follow this route, and they jettisoned it.
And that's what bothered me, because they clearly built up a great chemistry between them. She's like, "Oh, you know what? I'm having cold feet." I'm like, "What?"
Yeah.
I mean, it was very jarring.
Well, at least they didn't throw. I was afraid that James himself was going to make an exit from the series, the way Cat Grant did an episode or two later. But at least he's still around, so those cold feet can warm back up at any time.
And that bums me out, because Cat Grant is my favorite part of that show.
I don't want to accidentally spoil, but did you guys hear what they're going to be making Jimmy Olsen later on this season?
Is it Turtle Boy?
No, I did not.
Oh, no, it's Guardian, right.
Yes,
I did
Guardian.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Yep. So that'll be interesting to see them do. I mean, and plus, with all these series on right now, I may very well get my dream of getting most of either like the Young Justice or the Titans on the screen at the same time in the giant crossover, because they introduce Artemis in this season of Arrow as one of the new members of the team. You've got you've got Supergirl in there. You've got Mon-El running around, which I've been enjoying that interpretation so far. Over on Flash, you've got a bunch of characters they've introduced this past season. Like, yeah, we're getting like a real like secondary team going on that I enjoy as much as the main team.
Well, I'm looking forward to hopefully finding the time to catch up on these shows. Now, I didn't stay through the whole first season of Gotham. Do either one of you guys watch that show or no?
I do.
Okay.
Yes. Okay, so here's the thing about Gotham. Don't look at it as a Batman show.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's not. And I don't think it ever will be. I would not be surprised if we never even see him put on the cowl. Because that's how they presented it. He's too young, and all these other people were way too old, so it wouldn't make any sense. What we do have, though, is we have the insanity of Gotham City portrayed spot on the screen. And by the time you get to the end of Season 1, and especially Season 2, they get so many things right about the general Batman universe, and really, Commissioner Gordon takes that role of the detective to where you want him to, and he is the star of the show. Young Bruce is secondary. It is Gordon's show, as it should be, because it's called.
Yeah, that I gathered from what I'd seen thus far the first season. So, and I love what's his name? Who plays Bullock? He's a great character actor.
Oh, Donald Logue.
I always enjoy his acting. Is this on the third season now or the second? I've lost track.
This is the third, I believe.
Okay. And how was the second season, just in general?
Great. Yeah.
Was it good? Okay.
I mean, and you get so many different like Batman things going on. Like in the same season, you got the Order of Saint Dumas and the Court of Owls.
Wow. Okay.
So
that must have made Brent happy.
Yeah. Oh my God, did it? Yeah. He would not shut up about Azrael for like at least 3 weeks. But yeah, no. I love the interpretation of Penguin specifically. Riddler gets better and better. What they're doing with Harley, with Poison Ivy has been very, very unique. Yeah, I really like it for what it is. I mean, I don't look at it as a Batman show because it's not.
Well, I'll just. If I can never find the time, I'll catch up on all these. My first priority is to watch the second season of Flash, because I love the first season of Flash. So
yes.
That's my first priority.
The second episode of Legends of Tomorrow Season 2 will make you very, very happy.
All right. I got to watch Season 1 first.
I know.
Yeah,
I know.
So do I, actually.
So,
yeah. I mean, basically, there's a Justice League in the movies, so what do you introduce in the TV? A society.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yep.
When is the Justice League film coming out? I've lost track of that date.
Is that 2017, I think?
Okay.
Yeah.
That's soon, huh?
I think so. Yeah, well, they're already in production. I know that. Because Wonder Woman... Oh, did you guys see the Wonder Woman trailer, actually? Speaking of
yeah.
Probably.
Well, Pants isn't here, so we can speak freely about trailers, so go ahead.
Okay, I just got a release date. November 17th, 2017. Technically, so it's late next year.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay. But I really enjoyed the trailer, and this is coming from a man who didn't like Man of Steel, didn't like Batman v Superman, didn't like Suicide Squad, so...
Well,
I'm hoping for the best here.
I'm looking forward to it. I'm a big Chris Pine fan. I think he's a great choice to play Steve Trevor. I mean, it's a World War I setting, which is interesting, and you usually think you associate Wonder Woman with World War II, but I'm interested to see what they do with that. It's a Gal Gadot, is that the actress?
Gal Gadot.
Gal Gadot.
Yep,
Yeah.
she's Israeli.
Gadot, forgive me. She's Israeli, correct?
Right.
Yeah. I'm interested because we didn't get a good idea of what her acting chops were in that train wreck Batman versus Superman. So I'm interested to see how she portrays the character when the movie's all to herself, essentially, which is what it should have been from the first place. So I'm definitely looking forward to that. But what the trailer that excites me the most right now is Logan.
Yes.
Oh, man, when you heard that Johnny Cash cover of the Nine Inch Nails song Hurt, and you see this old, dying Charles Xavier, and it's basically old man Logan. He's basically saying, I'm like, all the mutants are dead, is what you're gathering from this trailer. And, I mean, I found Hugh Jackman. I mean, he's been playing this character now for 16 years, essentially. And to me, he is the core of all those movies. I just find him whenever he's in those X-Men movies, at least his part of it, I just find riveting because I just think he channels Wolverine essentially. Yeah. And plus, I got to give the guy props for maintaining that kind of physique for all these years, which must be a brutal workout regimen. But I am very excited to see this movie. And I think it's the same director who did the Wolverine, is it not?
That is correct.
Is it Mangold? So I thought he did an excellent job on that. And
Have you seen the director's cut? Have you seen the director's cut of the Wolverine?
I have not, actually.
So much better.
Really?
Yeah. Okay. For the scenes that they put back in, it's essentially an unrated cut. So how Logan is going to be R, this is basically the R/unrated cut of Logan, and it fleshes out some backstory. It adds in more gore and more Wolverine-esque scenes. It was included in the 3D Blu-ray edition.
Yeah, because I think I just have the regular DVD. I'll have to go back to my store and check. So I don't think I have that. But,
okay. Yeah, it's great though. I actually prefer it over the theater cut.
Oh, because I really have to watch it because I enjoyed. I didn't think it was perfect, but there was a lot in that movie that I really enjoyed, especially the more quiet moments. Mm-hmm. Like when he's having dinner with Mariko, and she's explaining how you shouldn't put the chopsticks that way because it's means death and bad luck and so forth. And I just think Hugh Jackman is tremendous. And one of the reasons why I really didn't care for Age of Apocalypse was because he was barely in the movie. So that's a movie I'm very excited about.
Yeah, same here.
Oh.
And meanwhile, The Flash lost another director.
The Flash movie you're talking about?
Yeah, the Flash movie. They just went through their second director.
That doesn't bode well, I guess, but we'll see. I mean, that's a whole other discussion, like the DC television universe versus the DC movie universe, and what's working and what isn't, and so forth. But I think when I said before about DC listening, I just think Marvel's done such a good job of sort of fusing this all-encompassing universe that's on a mainstream television, on Netflix, and in the films. Yeah. And for me, it's all working, and that's so in keeping with the idea of a Marvel universe. Mm. I mean, they're just tapping the foundational strengths of that comic book world, essentially.
I would say that it's really DC's filmmaking arm that needs to listen to its TV production arm as much as it needs to listen to anything that Marvel is doing, because DC is at least they've conquered one medium at least. Well, besides comics, obviously, but if they could do in the movies a better job and closer to what they're doing on television, they'd be in good shape.
Yeah, well, that's why I'm looking for Wonder Woman as much as I am, because it's not a Zack Snyder movie, so that's. That's fine by me. I'm so done with him.
It looks to me like it's kind of filmed under cloudy skies and with bleakness and warfare being the order of the day. I mean, there'll be some jokes if the trailer's any indication, but I'm afraid it's still going to be that kind of somber and depressing tone to it.
Yes,
which none of us really wants.
Speaking of anything but depressing, has anybody seen the new Batman animated movie with Adam West, Burt Ward, and Julie Newmar?
Not yet. I want to, though.
Because I think I'll probably buy it this weekend. I have not seen it yet. Murray, does Shane mention that at all?
Shane hasn't, and Pants hasn't, as far as I know.
Okay. So, well, I'll try to view that soon, because I'd love to talk about that on the air as well, because the concept sounds fun as hell. So, I really want to check that out.
There's, 3 members of the original cast still alive at this point?
Yeah, it's West, Ward, and Newmar. Yeah,
that's it. Yeah. Well, do it now before it's too late. Did you guys talk about the Guardians 2 trailer at all?
I love that one too.
Yeah.
I mean, it's. I just watched that the same time as I watched Logan last week, and you see the humor there that you're looking forward to. I hope they do a new mixtape for this movie.
They will,
because didn't he got the second tape from his mother at the end, right? So I can't wait to see what 70s classics are on that tape. But these are all films I'm very excited about. So here.
Especially that tiny leather jacket on Baby Groot.
Well, Jim, is there anything else you want to talk about before we call it an evening? Any other topics?
Well, I had one, but it may, depending on how much time we actually have to us here.
Oh, please go right ahead, Merritt.
Go ahead.
Well, just continuing along in a positive vein, the one announcement coming out of the Big Two recently that has heartened me somewhat as a fan is the impending resurrection, with the letter X in the middle of it, initiative that Marvel's going to be putting into practice, which is kind of an X-Men revival going to be happening sometime in first quarter 2017 after the current Inhumans versus X-Men IVX Donnybrook has run its course. And, I'd been moaning for some time here about Marvel's, as I perceive it, pettiness in casting aside and marginalizing different properties that they don't happen to own the film rights to. Fantastic Four being the prime example. And
which I find disgraceful.
Completely agree there. But yeah, so since Marvel doesn't own the rights to the film rights to X-Men either, I was afraid that what was going to happen was the mutant population on Earth was going to dwindle to almost nothing, and the X-Men were going to go the way of the dodo bird and the Richards family. But apparently they've announced that their plans are precisely the opposite of what I'd been fearing. They're going to be doing this big resurrection relaunch, and they're going to launch a bunch of, looks like 7 new series starring the X-Men, and it's going to be a little bit of 90s nostalgia and a little bit of good old-fashioned, shiny, aspirational superhero hopefulness. The X-Men are going to be treated more like traditional superheroes and less like, mutant, persecuted outsiders. So the darkness, grit, and whatever's been going on in the X-Men titles for the last 10 years when I haven't been reading them are going to be, righted a bit. And so we're going to have an X-Men Blue and Gold team. There's going to be a new Generation X series. There's going to be a cable book. There's going to be solo series for Jean Grey and Iceman, and a new Weapon X team. Those are the first wave here of Resurrection series that will apparently be out early next year. Thoughts on all of this news from those assembled?
I'm all for it in that I too was sorry to see the X-Men being completely marginalized and sort of like a backwater of the Marvel Universe. And they have a rich history, a great pedigree. Think about how in 80s and the 90s, the X-Men were the comic book property, period. And it's just interesting how times have changed and the politics and impact of the movie side of it, and they're barely present when you think about it now. And I'm all for it. I just hope they get the right creative teams. For me, that's all that matters. I follow the writers now, not the characters. So it just depends on who they have get involved in these books. If it's creators I like, I will be all over them. I think about the last X-Men book I was reading regularly, and then I kind of dropped off. It was All New X-Men by Bendis and Stuart Immonen, which I enjoyed thoroughly. So I'm interested to see. I'm looking forward to it.
That entire era, the Bendis era of All New and Uncanny, was some of the most fun I'd had reading X books in years. I mean, especially with Battle of the Atom. I mean, that was
Battle of the Atom was very good. Yeah,
terrific. I mean, by far the best X crossover in forever. And I feel like this is a sign not only of Marvel realizing how much of a mistake it was to take a group of books that was their moneymaker for so long and make them into something that was no longer that, but a mistake to listen to anything Ike Perlmutter says.
Preach on, Brother Levenstein.
Yeah, because, for instance, they weren't doing any licensing stuff with X-Men anymore. They took them off of any Secret Wars merchandise they were making. They literally took the Fantastic Four and X-Men off of Secret Wars covers that they were making into T-shirts. And they just have blank spaces where they were. That's how petty they were being about this.
Exactly.
And, yeah, it didn't make any goddamn sense. And now you see that there are pop vinyls coming out with the 90s X-Men. I bought a pop vinyl at New York Comic Con of Kitty Pryde with a little Lockheed on the side. And she's absolutely adorable, and I freaking love it. Deadpool was freaking gangbusters and will continue to be gangbusters for them. And we see these new books coming out, and I think it's a sign to me that, yeah, they realize just how stupid they were being, and they're going to reverse ship a little bit. I'm hoping, like you said, Chris, that they get top-notch creators on this, and honestly, I think they will, because they see what Rebirth is doing for DC. Why do you think this is called Resurrection?
Yeah.
I mean, it's basically their attempt at rebirthing the X-Line, and I'm all for it.
Me too, and I can only hope that eventually they'll bring the Fantastic Four back to its glory, because, you know, the whole kerfluffle with Fox and all that aside, just looking at the comics, that's the foundation of your whole universe. And okay, so they made one of the worst movies I've ever seen, you know, last year. But come on, I mean, to me, Marvel. When I read the comics, the Fantastic Four are not basically being there in any way, shape, or form. I think there's the thing with Guardians of the Galaxy or something like that, or
and Human Torch is with the Inhumans.
That's right. It doesn't feel right. There's like a hole there essentially where. This is the team that all the other heroes aspire to, essentially, and you've almost kind of like wiped them away. And at a time when, to go back to our earlier discussion, when, look, it's tough to sell comics, period. I mean, let's face it, they're read by maybe 100,000 people in the whole country, for 330 million people, the actual comics. So don't get rid of the Fantastic Four. You know, come on.
I'd like to make a prediction. Sometime within the next 3 years, Dan Slott will leave Spider-Man and reboot the Fantastic Four.
I hope you're right, because I think he'd do a great job with it.
Can scarce think of a better man for the job.
Yeah, I mean, he's written The Thing before, and you know he can do family books, so I think he'd absolutely be the man I think
he'd be wonderful at it. I think that's a great idea, Ian. And I can only hope, again, just for the greater exposure, that someday, and this could be pie in the sky, that someday Marvel and Fox can come to some kind of arrangement, and they can give those characters the multimedia treatment that they deserve, and for pity's sake, finally do Doctor Doom frickin' right for once. You know, it's sad that like the Roger Corman version of Doctor Doom is like the best one you'll find. I mean, it's come on. I mean. That he's the most compelling villain for me in comics. Yeah, and come on,
there's two villains. There's two villains I want in my Marvel movies within the next wave. I want Doctor Doom back where he belongs, and I want Kang.
Oh, Kang would be awesome, Ian.
Yeah,
good pick. Both.
Indeed.
Well, I think Kang is a more viable possibility at this point than Doctor Doom. But
yeah. Oh, yeah, they need real heavy Avengers foes if that franchise is going to continue, and we all know it will. So, yeah, Kang it seems like an inevitability. So let's hope that they, if they don't have Doom back yet, Kang has at times been thought to be a descendant of Doom. Maybe they can do with him what they can't do with the actual Doom.
Well, when we did our, a couple years back, we did our Book of the Months on Avengers Forever. To me, that is the definitive take on Kang and the grandeur of Kang as a villain. So,
oh yeah, both Kang and Immortus.
Yep, that's right. So I hope they realize that. Yep. All right, anything else, gentlemen?
I do have a little something from the CGS mailbag. Won't take but a moment. It's from our friend Pankaj Jobanputra and his wife Bijal from the Philadelphia area. He's come to a few Wild Pig sales, Chris.
Great guy, and Pankaj, you sent me an email recently. I haven't gotten back to you, and I apologize for that, and I will in the near future.
Well, the Jobanputra family has sent us a little card wishing the CGS gang a happy Diwali. So, thank you for that, Pankaj and Bijal.
Very nice.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. All right.
Oh, I wanted to bring up real quick, guys. If you ever decide that you want to do one of the collector Cora boxes, the Marvel one is the one that's worth it. Because I've been a part of them since they started so far, and specifically the Doctor Strange one. Like, I got a freaking Doctor Strange ceramic mug as part of this shipment. Plus a T-shirt, plus an astral projection pop vinyl. And I please, you want to make me happy? That's the way to do it. And next month is X-Men, so I look forward to seeing what that one's going to be.
All right.
I think $25 a box, so not too shabby.
All right. right, gentlemen, are we shot our bolt?
I think so.
Let's call it Bolt Shot.
All right. Murr, take us out.
Happy to. And the first stage there is in thanking once again the sponsor for this episode of CGS, and that is the Collection Drawer Company, maker of the Drawer Box storage system. Long box with a drawer inside. Check it out at collectiondrawer.com. It will revolutionize your comic book storage. And now, if you'd like to send us an email, you can do so at comicgeekspeak@gmail.com. Leave us a voicemail at the number 267-702-6642. You can like us on Facebook. You can follow us on Twitter. Our handle is at comicgeekspeak. You can stop by thecomicforums.vanillaforums.com to take a look at the little community of CGS listeners we've got going there, and talk back to any of the topics we discussed in this Comic Talk episode, or chime in on a variety of other topics and a variety of other discussion threads to be found there. We'd like to thank everybody who's donated money to the show recently or in the past. I would really appreciate it. Couldn't do the show without you. And as always, we are uniting the world's mightiest heroes, one listener at a time.
Laser beams, opinions like the seasons on